The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Hey, here's something I am utterly fascinated with, which is that in London, listening clubs have started to open up. This is basically a place where you go and they have really, really nice sound systems arranged around a room. And you go in and you just listen to the music. Now, you might be saying, well, how is this different than just going to a dance club? Or how is this different than being in a bar where there's music playing? No. This caters to audiophiles who want the best quality reproduction of music recordings. There's one called Spiritland. There's one called Lucky Something in London. And it's becoming more and more popular where people can go and it's all about listening to the music. And it's pretty loud, I must say, according to reports that I've read about it. This is fascinating to me for a few reasons. Number one, there's this movement that we've talked about a little bit to go towards vinyl, the idea of buying vinyl records and playing them, and it comes with the art and the lyrics and all of this stuff. And because I'm trying to move in the direction of just owning fewer items, I'm a little bit repelled by it. I don't really find it too interesting, but some people do. This is interesting because it's not a question of stuff, but it's a question of going, and the music is not background, like at a bar or even at a dance club where maybe you're buying drinks or whatever. You're just there to listen to the music. I am increasingly repelled by places where the music is really loud. Now, when I was your age, Pat, it didn't really bother me. I just thought it was cool to be in places where there's loud music and I would just shout over it. And then I would come to do the show and my throat would hurt and my voice would be really strained and it would be a disaster. Are you into the loud music places?
Not so much. I like a good volume where you're still able to have conversations with people 2 feet away from you.
I'm the same way. And so for me, the idea of going somewhere where the whole point of it is loud music, it doesn't seem particularly appealing to me. But to each their own. And I guess if you really want to hear all the nuances of the recording, what better way to do it than in a place where the number one priority is really, really good speakers and audio reproduction and whatever. I really find myself annoyed when I was recently in, I think it might have happened in Las Vegas or maybe on a prior trip where I saw some friends I hadn't seen for a while. Then everybody said, okay, let's go somewhere and get a drink. And the first two places we walked into, the music was pounding at such a level that we immediately left. What's the point of going into a place where you have to yell to be heard? So I'm probably not the right person for the listening room, right? It's probably just not for me.
Yeah, those places probably are geared to people who are just intoxicated to the point where you wouldn't even want to have a conversation with them anyway.
That's one option. And the other is you're just so into the music because a lot of these places don't even serve alcohol. I mean, really the idea is you go in and you sit down and you just listen to the music.
Well,
and I guess that's the fun of it.
More people who wouldn't normally want to go to clubs will go to this because you think of club goer as more extroverted, someone who's out there and wants to talk. You can just show up here and be introverted and just kind of hang out.
That's a good point, right? If the idea of going to a club seems horrible because of all the people, who's dancing, who's not, social pressure, am I buying drinks, am I not buying drinks? Maybe this is hugely appealing to someone who just wants to go, not have to talk to anybody, and just sit down, but not stand out as sort of like not participating in the way that's expected at a dance club. That's the whole point. You just show up and sit there.
Yeah, a lot of people have a fear of not being able to fit in. And if that's what is expected of you, to just sit there and enjoy yourself, I mean, I think it could bring in a whole new audience of people.
If I go to London at some point soon, I would be interested in just stepping into one of these to get a feel for what the vibe is, although I don't know that I'd stay for an entire album's listening time, but I would at least take a look at it. Hey, we've talked about discrimination against people who are albino before, and particularly in some African countries. I've told you that there is significant discrimination, even physical violence against people who are albino. Albino, of course, lacking pigmentation in skin, hair, eyes, or some combination thereof. And in Nairobi, Kenya, of course, one of the countries at the top of the list with significant discrimination against those with albinism, actually has started a albino beauty pageant involving celebrity judges, and it really does seem to be a great thing for people. And my feelings are so mixed about it because on the one hand, really, if you're albino, you should not be at risk of physical violence. You should not be discriminated against. It should just be seen as no big deal. Now, of course, in a country where the population is predominantly black, you're going to stand out way more as albino than in a country where the population is predominantly, or at least significantly, white. So I totally understand what is going on here, but there's also sort of like faux spiritual beliefs about albino people being demonic or inherently evil in some way. On the one hand, having an albino beauty pageant is calling attention to something that I don't even think is really a big deal. Given that it is very stigmatized, maybe this is a good thing to try to reduce stigma. I don't know.
And you think that in most cases, beauty pageants should just be on the way out now, should be phasing out.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, because in a lot of countries, if you look a certain way that's not normal to how everyone else looks, and
it's
you
not
have
the common. Yeah.
Right. You have an exotic look to you, I guess, a different skin color, you may be perceived as more attractive because it would be diversifying your genes a little bit more. And that's why you see people trying to lighten or darken their skin tones, trying to change their hair color, trying to change their eye color even. I mean, it really depends on the country.
I mean, I think really a lot of it is tied up in these paranormal beliefs, religious type dogmatic beliefs about albinism. Because you're right that in many cases, there's really, it's sort of seen as an interesting and unique trait of someone when they look different in a way that is not, I don't know how to describe it, conventionally off-putting, right? If you're talking about skin tone or hair or whatever, and there's just so much wrapped up in the bullying and violence against those with albinism in many countries in Africa and in other parts of the world as well. This is not just Africa. That it just seems to have completely skipped the idea of being interesting and sort of cool because it's different. And it's sad. I mean, being beaten up or being under threat of violence because you lack pigmentation, it seems utterly insane to me. A New York man returned a book that was 42 years overdue. There's an article on the New York NBC4 website about this. It was checked out in April of 1974, and it was returned this morning to the New York City, to a New York City library. This is just unbelievable, and nobody at the library knows exactly why it happened. The library director, Tim Wiles, said, quote, "It's a notable thing, doesn't happen very often. I've been in libraries for 30 years, and this is the most extreme overdue book that I'm aware of." They don't know why it's been out so long. It's a chronicle of Nazi Germany, which now the book itself sort of has an interesting history of its own. My speculation is the following. 1974, closer to World War II, maybe the borrower didn't want to be identified as maybe being sympathetic to Nazi ideology or something like that. So they said, you know what, I don't want to return the book. Maybe the original borrower died or the book was misplaced or lost or whatever. Now it's been uncovered and it's 15,531 days overdue. It would be liable for $3,106 in late fees, which apparently are not going to be paid because it was just returned and dropped off. Someone found the book and brought it back, and maybe stigma around not being a Nazi sympathizer was the cause of the book not being returned. I have no idea.
Or it could be something as simple as it was just stowed away in storage in the guy's basement for all this time, and he just uncovered it. I actually have a book that I took out probably 5 or 6 years ago, and needless to say, I have not brought it back yet.
Do you know how much you would owe on it right now?
Well, first I would have to find it.
Oh, okay.
You'd think that late fees should just kind of be capped off at a certain point, like maybe just slightly above what the book is worth, because $3,000, that's quite a lot for some paper.
$3,100 is a lot for a single book. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan. Maybe Seinfeld you are a Seinfeld
Somewhat,
fan.
Yep.
Do you remember the episode where there is an overdue book and an inspector, there's like an actual, it's almost like if it were a detective investigator type, starts doing an investigation of where the book might be. And it's, I forget the actor's name, but really, really good actor. And it's a whole thing about the book's been on loan for I don't know how many years. It just reminds me of that when I hear a book has been on loan since 1974. You haven't seen that one, though?
I haven't seen that one, but do they end up finding who took the book out and tracking down the case?
Well, I think it's George, if I remember correctly.
Of course,
It's been a while. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's been a while since I've seen that episode, but I think it was George that borrowed the book and didn't bring it back, and it was a whole drama. So anyway, 42 years, the Chronicle of Nazi History, if you were worried, It's now back at the library and available on loan. You could probably also buy the book for a penny on Amazon rather than paying 5 cents a day late fees or whatever else it may be. Okay, a few questions have come up since yesterday, which was the launch of the sale of the 2017 David Pakman Show calendar. So, number one, there is a bit of a glitch as far as shipping is concerned. The idea is that if you're in the US, the calendars ship free, and that's absolutely working fine. But if you're outside the US, shipping is extra. However, if you're like in Australia, shipping for one calendar is $14. Basically, postage is $12.80. And we also need to actually go to the post office and fill out a customs form, whatever. So $14 is the total for shipping and handling. However, if you're buying 2 calendars, it doesn't really make sense that it be $28 because it's still one envelope. It's still just addressing it once, and the postage doesn't double to add a few ounces of weight. So we are trying to solve that. The way it should work is that shipping for one calendar internationally is $14, and then every additional calendar is just $1 more. That's the way we want it to work. If you're trying to buy multiple calendars and you're outside the US and you're getting anything other than $14 plus the number of calendars you're buying in excess of one, let me know. And we'll keep working on trying to figure that out. Number two, people asking if I have a membership, what do I do if I want to get the free calendar by restarting my membership? The easiest thing is you go to davidpakman.com/login, log into your membership and cancel it, okay? Fully log out. Then go to davidpakman.com/calendar17, pick the option you want, the free calendar signed or the free calendar not signed, and start the process over from the very beginning. That's the easiest thing. If you need any help with that, let me know. And lastly, bulk orders, very much appreciated. Already had one person place an order for 3. They wrote to me saying they got one for their wife, and they got one for their boss, who is a right winger, which I think is fantastic. Best possible use of these calendars is to give them to a right winger. Order in bulk, by all means. We can get any number of these printed. If you order 1,000, I will get 1,000 printed. Believe me, I will make it happen. If you order 100 or 50 or 10, of course, we will also gladly get these printed. 9 orders on day 1. The goal is 350 total. Let's keep it going.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.